So I have another bit of homework for you for tomorrow. And that is to create your own bucket list. Do you know what a bucket list is? No?
What we want to do before we die?
Yeah.
Before you get the bucket.
Yeah, I got the idea from you. So write your bucket list of things you'd like to do before you kick the bucket.
Are we doing this now or later?
That's your homework for tonight.
Oh, okay.
And you can bring it tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. 4 days after I was ordained, I lost my chugu.
Like for good?
No, somebody found it, but I got it back. It was very embarrassing. We were hosting the Dalai Lama's teachings in Dharamsala, and it was really, really rainy, so I had a poncho on, and I had my chugu kind of over my shoulder and the poncho. We were walking down the mountain, and it slipped off, and I had no idea because we were in the rain, and I had a poncho on. So then, at the teachings, they say, "Did somebody lose their chugu?" It's like, great. You're already really kind of self-conscious, you know. It's like the robes are kind of strange, and your head is bald, and all kinds of things. But yeah. Thupten Jimbo was sitting next to me. He goes, "How'd you lose that?" Okay, so we were finishing up 5 and moving into 6. So in 5, I just wanted to reiterate that the 3 poisons are the strongest internal obstacles for virtuous practice, and the weapons that can actually really, His Holiness says, can kill yourself at death, because they can manifest so powerfully at the time of death. Your attachment, your anger, and particularly our ignorance because of our confusion. Now, I think last year I shared this one. It was really powerful when one patient just lived in a kind of a 50s tract home, and they couldn't find her son because she kicked him out years ago. She made him live in the garage for a while, and then she made him leave. But she wouldn't die. She couldn't die, and her vitals were just totally just hovering. And she didn't die, and the nurses were getting really distraught, and they called me, and they said, "Please, Tenzin, come in and see what's going on." And in this tract home, you know, this woman is just lying there, and all I could get out of her was, "It's all mine. It's all mine." And just this, like Gollum, you know. "It's all mine." They couldn't find her son, you know. I mean, just really, she didn't want him around. The neighbors were coming in to take care of her. And to see, you know, this kind of grasping and anger and what goes on. So, you know, when you really think about how you can't take anything with you when you die. You know, her tracked home can't go with her. And yet we create so much anger and aversion and chaos and hatred around our possessions. And to see, no, what use are they? And she'd been in a hospital bed for months. So to realize how important it is to see through that, to look and work with that so that you can let it go. Let it go, because it's, you know, it becomes a burden for the people who are left behind. You know, the things that are really precious to you, you know, the other people have to deal with. I'm going, well, Tenzin wanted this one, but what do we do with it? Right? Yeah. Terry? Oh, you're pitching. Okay. Uh-huh.
The other extreme was my mother. So I said, okay, so who do you want stuff to go to? She said, take all my clothes over to the hospital store. Just leave me enough outfits until I die. I mean, she was not attached to any of it.
Isn't that beautiful?
It was so great.
It's so helpful to the family. So really remember that. It's so helpful. Okay, so the commentary was, avoid lusting after the situation you're leaving. Avoid hating that you have to leave. Okay, so stanza 6. Wishing for mindfulness of instructions while dying. So the main word is mindfulness. Mm-hmm.
Before you move on, can you just discuss number 5 just a little? Stanza 5, number 5.
Okay. Was there a part that you had a question?
Realizing that by taking a pill or an injection...
Okay. That point number 5?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's really important to strike a balance there, because sometimes we do need to pacify some of our anxiety, pain, and so the medications are really quite strong and amazing. They can help a lot. Sometimes it takes a while for the nurses and doctors to get the right balance. Isn't that right, Venerable Jigme? Yeah. So sometimes it's too much, sometimes it's too little, sometimes they're still in pain or whatever. Sometimes it's knocking them out. And it does take a while to balance that. You know, hopefully they get the right balance. But here, you know, when I was reading that one again, it's like the comment was to have a so-called peaceful death. And I think that His Holiness may have been going to the extent of thinking of the euthanasia. And that's clearly not what we want to do here, nor do the hospice physicians. Yeah. And there is a little bit of a trend here and there, but not really, it's not a hospice view at all.
You know, if it's you, it's okay to ask the doctor to only prescribe enough to dull the pain so it's manageable for you and not holding you back from focusing on what you want to be focusing on. You don't have to remove all of it so that you're so out of it you can't be conscious.
And I think it's important for us not to be too stoic also. You know, we have these things available to us. So to be able to use them.
It's not like it'll be a get good.
No. Venerable Jigme.
The other thing is that it changes continually. I think you mentioned that a little earlier, but the dose that works now won't work tomorrow. It'll either be too much or too little based on what's going on. And so it's a moving target continually, and so to open to that.
Yeah.
You're not going to find one dose that's going to be it now.
Right.
That's not how it works.
We keep hoping for that, though.
Yeah.
Okay, stanza 6, wishing for mindfulness of instructions while dying. So this one is gaining favorable conditions for the time of death, and it's for generating virtuous attitudes. So let's read that verse together. May we remember instructions for practice when doctors forsake us and rights are of no avail. Friends have given up hope for our life, and we are left with nothing else to do. That's a pretty devastating realization, you know, that the doctors have run out of things to do for you, and others are also giving up hope. No, it's that one more layer of saying there's no more hope for this. So the Buddha said, some die in the womb, others die at birth, still others when they crawl, some when they can walk, some are old, others are adults, going one by one like fruit falling to the ground. And we're so focused on affirming life, you know, affirming life all the time. In the hospital, Long Beach Memorial, where I was training, there is the circumstance where women haven't given birth, but the fetuses are dead, and they separate them from where the other women in obstetrics are, because they don't want to disturb them by hearing the newborn babies crying. So they're in a totally separate section. You know, and this is a challenging one to work with in chaplaincy, you know, for when the babies die in the womb. So, you know, how much we cling to our lives and how much families want to have children in most cases, you know. So, yeah, quite a contrast. So, realizing how much we cling to our life, you know, what happens when we get instructions like this. So, so here, as I was saying in the earlier class this morning, right, number one, that point number one, at this point, doctors, priests, friends, and relatives cannot keep you in this life, and it's up to you. It's up to you to do what helps. You know? So if there's no hope, what to do? Yeah. If there's no hope, it's really using your mind, using your mindfulness to really focus on this, so that you keep your mind in a virtuous place. Yeah. Pretty hard to do when everybody's given up on you. How do I keep my mind? But this is where familiarity with the death teachings can really help you in saying, okay, you know, this is time to turn my attention to this dying state.
Germany where I lived, and in the Tibetan center there was a teacher until 2003. He died, and he was so active that the center to establish it and establish a study program and so on, and there were nuns and monks too. And at the time of his death, he realized it's now the time. Then he said to all the nuns and monks, now it's my time. And so he didn't allow any questions about the center, any Dharma questions he had. So because he was really very close, so he died in the next hours. And he only allowed a Dharma friend, a Geshe, to him, and some others who were Geshes. And he asked only for a picture of his teacher, of his good guru. So then he made it practice. He couldn't do it alone, so he needed support of the Geshe.
Was he Tibetan?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. teacher died 3 years ago, and he kept telling us that he had to get well. He had to get well. And yet he would tell other people, like an old Tibetan woman that came in, saying, the doctors say there's no hope. Yeah. And my friend said, it's because you're the students, and the students, you know, his position is that he's to continue to encourage you and teach you. So it was kind of frustrating because I wasn't sure how to talk to him. No, so it was quite hard. But this is where, for all of us, you know, we have the cultural layers to go through. You have your family hierarchy levels to go through. You have your sibling orders to go through, and friends. You know, lots of different veils to look at when you're trying to support and help people. Which is why it's quite curious that, you know, some people in hospice won't see their friends, and they'll allow me in, and I never met them before. Yeah. So.
Earlier, like when somebody's dying in Tibetan Buddhism, you don't want to touch them?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it causes the consciousness to move to those spots, and also at the time of death, they say then the consciousness exits through those spots. And so if you have to touch the person, you touch the top of the head or the shoulder, something like that. But if you touch the feet, definitely they're gone. I was just actually the woman who passed away on Thursday, her son graduated on Thursday. I had gone to see her on Tuesday, so 2 days before she passed. And she was already, you know, her eyes were just barely fluttering. She's pretty much non-responsive. And so I wasn't touching her. And she was a really wonderful one because when I would go and see her, she would just say, just keep talking to me here, you know, just keep telling me. Because I would say, think of a time of being completely loved and allow that love to run through you. You know, allow that love and that family that you so love, you know, allow their energy to just fill you and give you satisfaction and joy. You know, and so I was just, the week prior to that, she kept saying, just keep talking to me like that, I'll be fine. Now, isn't that great? But I had gone in there with her and her husband. And her husband, you know, I'm saying these really affirmative prompts to her. And I looked over at the husband because in the prior weeks I had seen them. He was just a basket case, just buckets of crying and crying and crying. And she wanted to speak with me privately. And she says, I don't know why he cries so much. And then the other one was, I need to ask him if it's okay that we get buried together with my mother's ashes. So, you know, it was so wonderful working with this woman because she realized when she asked for a moment of privacy with me that she could turn around and ask her husband directly. So we called him in, and you know, she said, is it okay with you that in our burial spot my mother's ashes are there and your ashes are there? And he said, it's fine, absolutely fine. You know, tears. It's fine. And then he says, and she's saying, and your mother's tears too. And he goes, well, that can't be done. She's buried. And she goes, oh yeah, right. And then she says, why are you crying so much? And he says, because I'm going to miss you, right? I'm going to miss you. I love you. it was so endearing. It was so endearing. He said, I love you. And so, but that last day, when the last day I saw her, Tuesday, I'm just speaking to her, and I could see him kind of just sitting there listening too, and there's a smile on his face through his tears, because he's realizing, they had 38 years of marriage, and it was a really successful marriage. But then he goes and pounds her on her thigh, goes, you'll be okay, and I can see her like jerking like this.
You said just on the head.
And gently too, and he's going, yeah, because it's kind of shocking. It's like the body is, the elements are dissolving, and it's the dissolution process, and the mind is just kind of adjusting to all these things. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, in my culture, it's traditional to kind of, wash the body, person who passed away and change clothes, but with that notion that the body shouldn't be touched. How do Tibetans deal with that?
Generally, they wait until there's signs that the consciousness has really gone. And I don't know what those are, but definitely from having seen people after they've passed, there really does seem to be some energy there yet, and maybe there's a level that they see. Generally, they say like 3 days or something like that. So, but we're bumping up with that now in our American society too, as to what to do. But there are funeral parlors and doctors and hospitals who are really quite amenable to your faith tradition. And if you ask them in advance, particularly, and prepare for that, oftentimes they're quite supportive of your needs. Sometimes, they definitely don't want you there in the room for 3 days, but they might allow you to be there for several hours.
What if you die at home? Are you allowed to stay?
Yeah.
3 days?
Well, I think you have to bargain somewhat. Yeah, we did that with my teacher. Mm-hmm.
My friend died in Oregon and created a booklet about how to die at home. There was a group there, and you put the body on ice for 3 days, and you arrange ahead to let the body be for 3 days. So but that was, I think that it's each state that maybe you have to let
Mm-hmm.
There's no way.
But you're still moving the body to the ice, no?
No, somehow, I don't know. It's kind of, they have to clean the body and move the body.
Yeah, right.
They wait a while.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
But she's at home in that same room and
Right.
yeah, so there's an Amitabha, what's that site? Amitabha Hospice.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a whole list of things you can do about dying at home and leaving the body in peace and all that.
I attended a seminar in LA too. There's a woman who has a site called Sacred Crossings, and she takes care of all those things, including it's generally a hard cardboard box, and people can decorate it and do a lot of you can do a lot of the ceremony and transporting the body even. Yeah. Tanya?
It really depends on the state. I mean, you have to know what the rules are. And you say, in Arizona, my neighbor buried her husband in the backyard. And every once in a while, somebody calls the city up and says, did you know this woman's husband's buried? And they go, yeah, we know. And because there, basically, as long as you have, a coroner certification that the person didn't die from foul play, so, he was ill, He died at home. He was buried in the backyard. And it was perfectly fine to do that.
I don't think that could happen in an urban area, but, yeah.
So yeah, so you have to find out for your, your state, your principality, your community.
Right.
It's really a lot. I was really surprised.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. Okay. So point 2, while dying you need to remember spiritual instructions that accord with your level of practice and enact them. So, according to your level of practice and enact them. So, don't take the most complex, difficult things and think, okay, if I memorize them, I can do it. But, again, it's familiarize yourself with the dissolution states and then, work with them as you can. So develop familiarity in all situations, no matter how difficult. And how can we engage in meritorious actions so that it affects all aspects of our life and death? Yeah? And this is a huge part of our living practice, so that we are not irritated and angered and we're just very reactive a lot of times going through the different things in our life. So can you imagine when you're not well, you're ill, and people are prodding and poking and touching your body? It's just really difficult, to really keep a virtuous mind. So we have to practice when we are not able to handle our bodies much anymore and other people are handling our bodies for us. And look at these nursing homes, and they're really I hope I don't I hope I don't end up in some of these nursing homes. Yeah.
Well, on your level of practice, where does I've seen the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and where does that fit in? It has an awful lot of practices in there, and some people keep up on that.
Well, I imagine so, but generally I would guess that people choose one as a main practice, and then you stick with that and really work with familiarizing yourself with that, so that it becomes just part of your daily meditation, even, so that you're familiar with it. And this is where some of the tantric practices all go into the dissolution states, partly to understand emptiness, but also partly to really cut through our attachment to this body and life, and really work with the dying states. So, but yeah, some of them are really.
It seems like in most of the practices, the dying person had like a coach or someone to help them through that.
Yeah, right. I think when we're dying, most of the time we're not alone, and it's really nice to have a coach who knows about these aspects, rather than somebody who's hired there just to keep you clean.
When my mother passed away, I was instructed by the hospice nurse to call. My mother passed on a weekend, so we had to call the on-call hospice nurse. And she had to come out and declare her dead, and then mark the time that she was declaring her dead. So she touched her. And now I'm wondering how, if I was in that moment now, I could handle that. Because, I noted what time she actually died, but it was not the time that the hospice nurse did.
Yeah, it kind of has to be somebody who's...
Well, can you wait 3 days to call them? Or? that's the thing, with the way we have it set up,
Right.
get all these legalities.
I think that, yeah, sometimes I fret about that one too, but I think you have to just kind of let it go, in general, not have all the family members and the grandkids and everybody there touching the body, but just as minimal as possible. And just, do it like that. And because, yeah, I see your frustration, but it's exactly what we have to, it's like, according to the, my teacher would always say, really follow the rules of the country you're in too. Because you don't want to create, a lot of strife and grief and
I'm thinking
chaos.
this is the kind of thing you need to have with your family. You need to discuss ahead of time and tell them, look, when I'm dead, I don't want you kissing me goodbye or doing any of that stuff. Just leave me be until after the third day. Or you've seen the signs that the consciousness has left.
Right.
Real briefly, could you just give a quick synopsis of Tibetan death and deaths in India, how they're handled? They're certainly different than how we do it here.
Yeah. It varies also. One nun died while I was at my nunnery, and they just let her body be for a while. There was also a monk who died along the path where I used to walk every day, and he was sitting up in meditation posture for 3 days. So they didn't touch him for days. And so everybody's different, and there's a supportive community around them for the Tibetans. So when you have that with you, it's good.
In Tibet, they also sometimes ask a spiritual teacher to come for the 3 days and say the prayers.
They did that also for my teacher at the center in Long Beach, and before he passed also, so that his mind was, he was also hearing the prayers. And I got really upset because they made this big sign and it said monks only. I was really offended because I'd been at that center for 32 years, and I should have just bullied my way in, but there were all these monks there, and I just said, okay. But, again, it's watching your mind. So, watching your mind, because there are going to be things that are out of your control. Really out of your control. See, number 4, when another person dies, be careful not to upset her or him by causing more attachment or stirring up anger and hatred. Do not bemoan their departure, grasp at them, or cry in their presence. Help them to depart meaningfully by reminding them of deeper practice. So, I think my daughter was flying to Hawaii constantly when my dad had lung cancer. I'd been in India for over a year. And she called me and said, if you want to see Grandpa, you better come home now. And it was like all the opportunities to study were there. It was just the best, And so I packed up and went home. And so I really didn't know what was going on around my father's death. And it was so scary and painful for me, because thinking, it's like Dr. Bayak is saying, that nobody wants death, but more than that, you don't want a bad death. and to think back afterwards that there were things that you could have done to have alleviated some of that suffering. No. And my dad was a big man. He was 6'3", and he had lung cancer. And I believe, and I still haven't had the courage enough to ask my younger brother, who was in charge of my father's situation, but I believe my father did not want care of invasive care. And my brother allowed them to put a tube down and then something for his breathing. And my father was so angry that he was trying to pull the tubes out. They tied his arms down, they tied his legs down, and he was trying to write, but you can already see, it's like his energy is already collapsing. And whatever he would try to write, we could not read. You can see him fading so fast, and he's trying to write, and all it was scribble, and he's tied down, 6'3". You can see the frustration and the anger, and it was just really a terrible death, a terrible situation. And we're just hoping beyond hope. We're hoping. I'm clueless as to all of these things. And a young a young doc comes up, and she just says, "I just want to tell you, he's dying." So the capacity of their empathy and their care also, it was like tearing your heart out at the hospital. And so all of these things, when I look back, which is why it is key and important for you to write your advance directives and have that. Because I had no idea what my dad wanted, but it sure didn't look like he wanted the invasive things. He wanted to talk, but how could he talk with a tube down his throat? No? So really, really think about how you want to create this situation, because in the West, this is what happens.
And that was before you were in hospital?
Oh yeah, this was in 91. Yeah. So yeah, when another person dies, be careful not to upset her or him by causing more attachment or stirring up anger and hatred. Just like that film, on Friday night. The trauma in there. And, these people were wanting the treatment, right? And here my dad was not wanting the treatment. And it's also traumatizing. So, yeah, we have to speak up. And we have to know with the people that are around us what they want. Okay, so what is this called? Preparing to die. And really, I'm sorry, not preparing to die. Mindfulness of instructions while dying, so that we can gain favorable conditions at the time of death. Yeah. So number 5, if at all possible, ask others to do the same for you. Arrange to have someone near you who will speak to you in your ear from time to time, reminding you of the spiritual attitude to hold, because we can be going into total freak out mode. So to have somebody just reminding you and saying, the familiar things. And in your ethical wills or your advance directives, you can write down what prayers you want said, what music you want played, what persons you want around you, what persons you don't want around you so that you don't get upset. So all of these things. Okay, stanza 7, wishing to die within joyful confidence.
I had a quick question about number 4, where it says, do not cry in their presence. To me, it's one of those things that would be easier said than done.
Absolutely.
Is that where you want to actually withhold your emotions about something going on, or do it in another room and then not show that to the person?
Do it in the other room and come back. You can say, I love you. And sometimes I tell people in hospice too, no, this is the time that you are dying, and so to let go, because this is an important time for you to really turn your mind towards rejoicing in what you've had and to let go. And so, this is where we need practice too, as a coach, as someone in attendance or visiting a family member. Now, other family members may think we've gone nutty, right? Why aren't you crying? Like that woman was saying, why are you crying? Someone else may be saying, don't you have any feeling? Why aren't you crying? But, it's almost like everything gets really at a peak. So, to watch, and of course sometimes we can't control our crying near the person, but I imagine too that sometimes they're tears of joy of the profound friendship that you had in that time. Yeah.
Even when my cat was dying, I went to the bedroom to cry. I was isolated in the bathroom. And then I would come back and I was singing the prayers from the Tibetan book, Dead to Him, and mantra. And I would just say that, and when I would get all choked up, I would stop and I'd go back into the bedroom to cry. I cried at a previous cat's death. I bawled my head off and then learned all of this stuff. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that again. So he just got as much mantra and prayer as he could.
Beautiful.
I've heard that part of the reasoning behind that is that the person who's trying to die can then feel obligation to kind of hang on for that loved one who's dying. I imagine that could be the case. I know with my grandmother, she had several children who really wanted her to stay, and one daughter in particular who was crying a lot. And it was when her children left the room and when that particular daughter actually left the house that my grandmother died. And it kind of felt like, of course she loved her children, but my grandmother was also very much a caretaker and would soothe. It was really kind of odd. She was the one dying, but she was the one soothing. She was the one reaching out and giving to them. So when they left and she got safe, she could go through her process.
Yeah.
I find that really interesting.
Yes, I've seen that also many times and heard that. It's it's almost like they wait for a time when you're not in the room. I think there's a lot more, awareness than we know. Okay, stanza 7. Wishing to die with joyful confidence. We'll read this together. May we have the confidence of joy and delight when food and wealth accumulated with miserliness are left behind, and we separate forever from cherished and longed for friends, going alone to a perilous situation. Confidence. Okay. To avoid being depressed about dying, take refuge in your respective religion within compassion for all beings. Reflect on the importance of extracting the essence of this present life, which is endowed with both the leisure and the necessities of spiritual practice, and reflect again and again on impermanence. So I think that's really great instruction. You know, it's not too hard, but it's really like pith instruction to take for really helping you settle your mind and really have some confidence about who you are, and also to accept, you know, this is happening. So rather than all the baggage, right? So again, like Dr. Bayak was saying, see it as a developmental stage. That death is part of, because we were born, we all face death. No, rather than laying on all the other stuff. So, how do you think you will receive the news? No? So really think about that. How will you receive the news when you get that? How will you receive the news when they say, Venerable, I can't help you anymore? That's what the docs say, you know, that's where you call in the troops here.
Let's hope it's not tomorrow. Things to do before.
A lot of people say that. I haven't finished putting that car back together in the garage. You know, this one guy had 5 of them. I got to get that car back together. He says, this one's going to go to my nephew. This one's going to go to my niece. He says, I got to fix them up.
No, it's more about purification and letting go.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more we're ready at any time, and you realize it could happen at any time. You know, there's one meditation where we're looking at death by accident. And you imagine and meditate thinking, okay, I'm looking at this pavement, and that's the last thing I'm going to see. No, how do you feel about that? It's just the asphalt.
I've actually done this. And I just go, okay, a split second there's a car accident, your body's in the panic mode, and what do I do? And then there's that brief little moment where you have some clarity. And I think, Buddha, that's got to be the image you're thinking of. And just start saying mantra. What else can you do?
We're really working on this.
I am. I don't want to get in the bardo and be scared out of my mind. So to speak.
Yeah. Because that's all there'll be. Yeah.
So that's the one issue, and that's being an organ donor, which I really believe in. And then, you know, I think, well, I'll just have to, you know, I'll have to do some sugar practice or something so that while they're doing that, it doesn't make me respond.
That's a good question. I didn't think about that. And I'm an organ donor on my license.
But, you know,
Yeah, I am too.
in sugar practice, you imagine your body being chopped up and given away to
Right.
spirit. So
Yeah, that's true. So that's generosity. You know, I talked to my teacher one time about that. You know, I said, I'm not an advanced practitioner. Can they just take my organs? And he said, sure. Practice generosity. But the older I get, my eyes are bad, my heart's bad, my blood's bad. And it's like, it's not slim pickings here.
Use your cartilage in your ears to help somebody whose ears were burned off. And there's lots of parts to this.
Oh, good. Okay, let's see.
At one point, I was going to myself, my body to medical science, to be a cadaver for the medical student. But I rethought that sentence. First of all, because they don't usually treat the body very respectfully. And second of all, then you're shipped off right away to some place to be embalmed. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't really work with my Buddhist beliefs now, so.
Yeah, some people have donated their body. Many different ways to practice generosity. And one way is with our body. Right now I'm working with a 50-year-old who has acute early onset dementia. He's a chemical engineer who can barely talk. And he can't walk anymore. And it's like the rapid onset of aging and dementia with this handsome young 50-year-old. Just really amazing. And his mother died from it, his grandmother died from it, his sister died from it, and now his younger sister is dying from it, and he's dying from it. And he has 3 children, just, his wife said, he saw it coming on, he had to leave work, he stayed at home for 2 years, he could drive the children to school, and then it got so bad so he couldn't drive anymore, got worse, and he saw it coming on, and you see it, and it's like sometimes seeing things gives you the opportunity to make those plans. And he really made the wish that he did not want to be rude to people. And in his declining dementia state, he did not want to be rude. And it's so amazing because he's so debilitated now. Not a gray hair on his head, but he can't walk. It's just tragic. But this dignity about him, amazing dignity, even in that state. So we don't know what's going to transcend on us. So, it's like really checking your motivation too. And how my teacher, Geshe Gelsen, would say, in the early part of your life, you're born and you're totally helpless. If people didn't take care of you, you would die. Right? And then in this middle part of our life, we're independent. And we think we can do anything, and we don't need anybody, and we can just do what we want. And then towards the end of our life, we become dependent again. And it's very humbling, to really look at how we need to respond to our declining health and mental capacity. And if you have been mean and rude and cantankerous and ugly to your family members and others, how much do they want to care for you? But in that middle period, we can be really obnoxious. So to realize, if we get to live long, who's going to be your caregiver? And that's also something to really think about, too, the onset of that. So wonderful confidence, even not only in the dying state, but what about in your state when you are really frail? Really frail, and people have to help you walk and bathe and clean yourself. At first, when I started hospice again, I was just like mortified at the thought of wearing diapers. And lots of adults wear diapers, because of the condition of our life. And not only that, people have to change them for us. We can't change them ourselves. So, it's like, how do you hold that joy even in that place when you can't take care of yourself anymore? So here it's about the dying state. Okay. So His Holiness says, if we've prepared by thinking about death and impermanence and the importance of spiritual practice, familiarity with the signs, then it will be possible to die with joy and confidence, like a child happily returning to her parents' home. We got lots to work on, huh? So he says, the best practitioner can actually determine their next birth. And a middling practitioner will not be frightened. And a practitioner, but still a low practitioner, will have no regrets. So we got to kind of lift our sights at least to the low one. And work from there. Work from there so we can really lift our sights. And it's really quite astounding to think, oh my gosh, having parents again. Yeah. There's one teacher when I was up in Seattle at the FF. I remember he's saying, it's like you die and then you come back again with a really cute body. Just an adorable little body.
One of those 3-year-olds told me about when he was big. He was telling me about when I was big, I did this and I did this,
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you remembered that, That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. Talking to little kids about that. Yeah. Sometimes they remember. But, that's if we come back as a human being. Okay. So if we prepared for being reborn in a meaningful way, being able to continue our spiritual endeavor, there is no regret, depression, or fright when death comes. Like you're doing, preparing. So when it comes, there's no fear, no depression. It's like, okay, this is time. I'm going into it. And your consciousness can leave with confidence. Yeah. Okay, so we have to really gain more coaching and more joyful enthusiasm in our practice. Yeah, all the time. The six far-reaching attitudes. It was, really about dealing with unpleasant people and stuff, yeah? But we're really looking at, okay, how do we have joyful enthusiasm as we enter our dying state? Now it's like taking those far-reaching attitudes into that, yeah? Into the death. Mm-hmm.
You know, if I had a midwife for both my kids, then I kind of sense that we almost need like death midwives. I mean,
they have that term already. They're using that
what,
term.
do they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, you know, there are levels of midwives, too. Yeah. And it really is important to find midwives who are kind of on the same page with you. Okay, so we go to 5:45, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the second point in stanza 7, with that groundwork for effectively remembering your practice while dying, even horrific events and appearances that might occur will only serve to urge you to be calm and to meditate with joy and confidence. Even horrific events and appearances. You know, I mean, how much control do we have about certain dreams that appear in our sleep and in our dying state? You know, who knows what's going to manifest at the time of dying? So how do we sustain? You know, it's like, okay, just keep diving into that wave. Yeah, diving into that wave so that you can get through it. Whatever appears, whatever's going to manifest.
Well, that's part of the practice I do too, reminding myself that whatever I see is a manifestation of my own junk, and not be afraid of it. And then I tell myself, if you get afraid, ask Tara to help you. And I just keep, you know, like embedding that in there so that when it happens, it'll just arrive, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. People say, you know, this is the bardo of this life. We are in a bardo right now. And this is the bardo of our life, you know. But you're directing your mind towards really living it in a particular way. And then there'll be the bardo of the intermediate state.
You said if we come back as a human being,
Yeah.
what are the other choices?
In the Buddhist tradition, in unenlightened existence, they talk about 6 realms of, and that we continually circle around in them by our karma and our consciousness, our throwing karma that is the thoughts, the mental thoughts right at the time of death. That, you know, they say even you may be virtuous, living all your life, but at the moment of death, if you're angry, that can just throw you into another kind of state as well. So to really watch your state of mind and to help people create for you, you know, a peaceful dying space. So really it's more like the Tibetan Buddhist tradition and also the other Buddhist traditions. So it's more like their view, and so you can study it and examine it and look at it and see how does that work for you too. I would say we don't have that much choice, except we have choice now. You know, there's a book called Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, because how you run and live your life now is creating the conditions for your liberation, or for how, what your future potential and possibilities are. And particularly your motivation in your actions. They say mind is like the command central for your actions of body and speech. And what manifests in the Buddhist tradition are these 6 different realms, 3 favorable realms of existence and 3 unfavorable realms of existence. And they say that the human realm is the most excellent. The most excellent because we have a combination of joy and suffering. The suffering it acts like a spur to wake us up, and the joy to create ease and opportunity in our lives. So the human realm. The other opportune realms are the God realm, and it's God with a small g, not a big G, God realm, and then the demigod realm. So the 3 favorable realms: God, demigod, and human realm. And then the 3 lower realms, or unfavorable realms, are the animal realm and the hungry ghost realm that the Venerables were speaking about, or why we do the Preta offering, hungry ghost realm, and then the hell realms. So I would say that the hell realms and the heaven realms in Buddhism differ than the hell realm and heaven realm in Christianity. But again, it's a viewpoint. It's a viewpoint. And the Venerable children in the early days would talk about, well, if I become a Buddhist, am I still going to go to Christian hell because I left? And maybe Buddhist hell is better because it's impermanent, whereas Christian hell is permanent. Yeah. So it can get kind of far out as far as looking at what's there. A lot of times people look at these realms as more, you can see them as mental states within our lives as human beings. They're beings who live with every opportunity, and they really are like living in the God realm, isn't it? They have beautiful physiques, health, opportunity, exposure, fame, wealth, everything, They're well connected. Then the demigod realm, or the realm of beings who are continually jealous. They can see what the heaven realm beings have. They say that there's a tree that grows in the demigod realm, and it fruits. The tree blossoms and fruits in the God realm. So the God realm, people get to eat the fruit, even though the trunk of the tree is in the demigod realm. It's like what a cause for. And maybe the deer. I was thinking you might want to plant one fruit tree outside the gate so that they can taste the fruit. I don't know. Maybe it would only be too tantalizing.
They never grow to be a fruit tree.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, you can see these traits within us as human beings. Animal beings, animals we live with, so we're aware of them, so we quite accept that. And it's really quite fantastic when you go more and more into what creatures there are in the animal realm. Do you remember after that tsunami or the tidal wave in Indonesia, all those fish that came up? Did you see those photos? These fish that came out of the deep of the sea, they were really strange creatures. All the ones with like the little headlights and strange things. We didn't know about these so much, because they came out of the depths of the ocean. We're still uncovering the animal realm beings. So, I mean, it kind of gives you a sense of, well, we shouldn't poo-poo these other realms just because we don't see them with our physical eye, And then the Preta realm are these beings, on a human level. You can think of beings that are so dissatisfied that no matter what they have, they're constantly craving for more. It's just never enough. No, never enough. And so that's, it can be a psychological state. And then the hell realm beings who just, it's like they just have tragedy and chaos and horror 24/7 in their lives. And we see that in the human realm too. Kids who are born in war-torn areas that don't know anything but ducking from fire, scrounging for any food, scraps. Yeah. So those are the Buddhist choices. But they're almost like no choice. They say really it's, liberation in the palm of your hand. You're creating the conditions for your future. And so, I mean, some people just say, I don't want to think about some stuff like that, but where does consciousness go? Yeah, where does consciousness go if there is life after this? And another thing to examine. So realize, well, if we do come back as human beings too, think of those realms as human life manifestations too. Now, if we're constantly stingy and miserly and hoarding and grasping and angry at others, that it could be like a hungry ghost kind of scenario manifesting. So, yeah. So those are the Buddhist realms, the 6 realms of unenlightened existence. Is that what children calls it?
We don't say unenlightened.
Okay.
Cyclic existence.
Cyclic existence, yeah.
Or just the desire realm.
Yeah, it's that, yeah. And that's just the desire realm. There are 3 different realms, so we live in the desire realm. Why do they call it the desire realm? Okay. Yeah. My teacher was saying, okay, so we're looking at the elements next too. We're looking at the elements, right? There's our 5 senses, right? Sight, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, right? And all of them, you look at every one of our senses, we're constantly seeking pleasurable sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and touch. Constantly seeking pleasure and avoiding things that are unpleasant to us. Constantly. All day long. Even in our dreams. We're doing that. No? So when someone asked my teacher in Dharamsala, why do you call it the desire realm? And my teacher just said, because. It's like we want pleasant touch. Pleasant touch, pleasant smell, pleasant taste, pleasant sights. We're pretty...
Until we die.
Yeah.
Then we don't have
I think we still have it. Yeah. No?
But you're
I mean, even it's like if mind is the driver of it all. You're looking at the mind that's grasping at these things. And then there's the ignorance behind it too. Because you see a beautiful person, say an attractive person, you want it. You don't want to be separated from it. You want more of it, and then what do we do to not be separated from that? We'll do all kinds of things. We'll stand on our head to keep that. So much of domestic violence is all about grasping and holding on to what you can't have anymore, or what you don't want to be separated and torn away from. So we engage in virtue and non-virtue out of ignorance, too, out of grasping the pleasurable sight, sound, smell, taste, everything. We're kind of basic when you start looking at that. We think we're so sophisticated. But it comes down to pretty basic. Hydraulic function, Yeah.
So that's my understanding of the impelling into the next life is, you die and you go, oh crap, I'm dead. I want to be alive. And you look and you see a couple copulating. You don't see them with your eyes, so you don't know what they are. You don't know if they're predators. You don't know if they're animals. You don't know if they're humans. I mean, if you, like a normal person, not an enlightened person or a good practitioner, so you see this couple copulating, and you're attracted to one or the other of the people, and you hate the other one. And so, if you love the female, then you're born as a male of that couple. And if you love the male, then you're born as a female in the couple. And so that's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is like going, oh crap, I'm dead. And then like jumping into the lives that are populating on my body, making me be born as a maggot on my own body.
That's pretty stuff
Look at your face.
It's supposed to be joyful, confident.
I know, but
Yes.
I'm pretty knowledgeable about my mind.
You still have time to change it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you dug up a can of maggots. And there are many different versions, stories, theories, ideas, philosophies about this all. And so, I think it's really important as you venture into exploring this, just be very careful not to quickly reject things. Just kind of check it out and talk to people and keep an open mind about these different things, because generally for the Western view, right, we deny death, and yet we're sliding into it all the time, going into it backwards. But death is going to happen. So if death happens, when death happens, rather, what happens to consciousness? We clearly know what happens to our body. We clearly know what happens to our body. But does the consciousness just dissipate because it's no longer the electrical firing in our brain because the brain is dead? What happens? So to question and look and explore, really keep your mind open as you look at these different views and philosophies. So, it's like the husband that I was talking to with the Jehovah's Witness Buddhist and the atheist, right? When I said, yeah, Buddhists don't believe in a creator God, chunk, right? I lost him. So, watch where your walls go down, and then to look at, how do I open the window here and examine this? And really use your critical reasoning to say, okay, this is something that gives me something to really think about, or something that you absolutely want to reject. But if you're going to reject it, then have that confidence to say, yeah, this is something that really does not fit scientifically, emotionally, or whatever. I mean, like His Holiness was asked by one of the scientists one year, right? What if, one of the scientists said, what if we prove karma wrong? Right? What if we prove it wrong? And His Holiness said, well, then we'd throw it out. Right? But he says, you gotta prove it to me. So, I mean, His Holiness is also coming in from a very open-minded place. Prove it to me, show me. And really not with this kind of bias, but a true open-hearted inquiry that's going on. And so for us as Westerners approaching these other views too, let's come with that kind of open-minded inquiry and really check that too. So be careful, watch that you don't just slam the walls down right away. But really, this whole part of what happens after death, and is there life after death, or what happens to consciousness? Can I do anything to improve my odds? Can I really, with liberation in the palm of my hand, do some things now that create better conditions? And you create better conditions now for later in your life. Looking at your photo 20 years ago. Did you create better conditions for now? And look at what the causes that you created for 20 years later now. And to have that kind of confidence as you explore for pushing into this new frontier for us as Westerners, exploring this aspect of mind for the, after death and what happens. So really have, really be conscientious about this.
I've got a question where I'm starting to become really confused about that. The mind stuff. My mom, after 3 months of her death, I was asleep. I woke up in the middle of the night and my voice said, go back to bed and stay in bed until 7. And I woke up, it was 5 to 7 or 2 minutes to 7. And I opened my eyes and there was a golden cherubim holding the planet between his legs. And it was a nice sight, and then Mom was right here and she says in French, forgive me. That was 3 months after her death. Where I get confused is, what is my mind? What is
her mind?
Her mind? Was it me that created all of that? Like, I had also another experience of my grandfather. And that was in 1988. He was dead 3 years. And he appeared in front of me and somebody saw him. She says, who was that man? I never saw a person materialize like that. And he talked to me, told me to do something. And well, he said, we were going to get in Quebec at Easter, we go to springs, the water, little river, and we take water. And they say, and it has to be at a certain time before the sunrise, and they say that water is holy. And he told me, he said, because we were going to get the water, he said, when you're going to go get the water, put your 2 foot in the string and let go of your pride. That was his message. And the other lady saw him while he was talking to me, and then he disappeared. But again, what is me that creates that? Or is it all my mind? So then
I think that's a really beautiful experience you had, and there are many things that are really unexplainable. Really, and maybe that's we really have untapped situations still to learn, and it's very mysterious, and we're so stuck in this solid phenomenal world. But really thinking about the close death experiences some of us have had too, and some of the remarkable communications people have had at near-death experiences. I think that the consciousness is so much more profound than we really know, and how precious that you had that. And we have strong relationships with different people, or perhaps your uncle just felt this was
my grandpa. I didn't have any relationship with him at all.
Yeah, your grandpa. He had a strong wish, and I don't know. I can't say.
I'm frustrated, and the reason why is because I hear sometimes it's just your mind. Let it go. It's just an experience. Let it go. And I can understand that part that the mind, the pride, I have an experience,
and his command was
let go of
let go of your pride.
So I can understand that. So be careful. You think you're so far on the path or whatever. Yeah. I can understand that. But when I said it's all your mind, then I get confused. It's confusion that I have.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's all your mind, because we have relationships with so many people, Some people have experiences of His Holiness, or other people. I went to Lourdes, where Bernadette saw the Virgin Mary, and you read about what occurred for her, and it's still, it's a huge pilgrimage place today, and her experience was in the earlier mid-1800s, and so there are many different things that are quite beyond our normal waking life that we can't really explain, and so I think that we have to really acknowledge that there are things that we don't really know yet, or I imagine some people know, like His Holiness would know, others would know.
Is it the Holiness that shared that Mary smiled at him? Is it the Holiness?
It's in the book of the Kinship of All Faiths. Yeah, when he went to, I think it was Lourdes, he turned around as he was walking away from the grotto, and he said he had an experience of her smiling.
Smiling at him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was a wonderful, beautiful experience for him.
Yeah.
I don't know, Lord.
Yeah. Okay, we're going over. So last comment.
Okay, so we've asked Geshe Toge some of these questions, and usually you say the Bardo prayers for somebody that died for 49 days. The assumption, I guess, is that usually they go to their next life within that period. But he says sometimes they don't. And sometimes there are spirits that are confused and bewildered or whatever.
Yeah.
And the other thing is maybe a Buddha or a Bodhisattva appeared to Venerable in the form of her grandfather in order to communicate with her. And so that was a vision that she could recognize. I mean, there's all sorts of options, but I don't think you should discount it. That's
Yeah.
my personal opinion.
Thank you. Okay.